My son and I, we were walking to his school this morning, halfway during when we saw a mother grabbing and pulling back her child, probably between 1 to 2 years old, who was playfully wandering away from where she stood with her other kids. Her moves were rather vigorous and threatening on top of a loud and angry screaming voice, telling of the child on the spot. Now, as my son witnessed what happened, he gasped and said, "Whoa, that's a very strict mother." And I would say strict would not actually quite justify or befit the situation per se. This could be a biased view based on merely a snapshot of the event, but all I could think of at that moment was, no matter what, her temper flare was just unnecessary. So let me explain. Now, as a mother myself, I would understand that her first instinct was likely because she was concerned about the child's safety and also partly distracted by the overall chaotic setting with her many kids. Rightfully so, as their home was overlooking a busy street, especially during the peak hours of morning traffic. Although I would argue that it would take another 50 or more steps before the child that young would actually reach the side of the road. But with such a huge reaction from the mother, who was struggling to gather all her kids around, might actually do more harm than good. What parents often forget is how children never really have much perception of fear and anxiety until the adults around them demonstrate and instill in them over time through their own parental actions. Now, children are keen observers who live in the present moment. In their developmental years, everything intrigues them, and they are curious enough to explore and to get a flavor of what it is that they are drawn to. If you care enough to watch closely, you will notice how immensely fascinating this is and how wonderful it is to be reminded what it's like to truly be a kid. Then enter the adults, primarily their parents, who come with their own childhood experience or traumas, imposing on their children their very own rules or beliefs, which are none other than what they, the parents, have been given or influenced to adopt at one point in their own childhood and life. It is more often than not just something that has been passed down from one generation to another or accepted to be true until it is consciously challenged and assessed to either be rejected or accepted. Every direct and indirect interaction a child may experience is a seed planted in their consciousness. Nothing is lost, everything is absorbed and captured. The seed itself could be positive or negative depending on how often every single one of them is watered and nurtured, although both are already taking roots in the child's consciousness. Now, as soon as the right conditions show up, the corresponding seed will gradually grow and rise. Now, in other words, the mold through which a child's character is formed and fortified depends on how these different seeds have been taken care of over time. And parents have such a big influencing role. In this case, your children are looking up to you. Back to the scene earlier, now assuming that this is how the mother would react every time to similar situations, her child is learning from an adult whom the child places a lot of, if not the most trust in. The child may learn about the punitive behavior, the mother's reactive stance which induces fear and anxiety, and as a result, also subtly and slowly stifling the child's curiosity and playfulness to avoid the same consequences. So, what could the mother do differently but consciously? First, take a deep breath and pause for a moment as she notices what happens. Now, this might seem impossible, but many a time, it is what's needed that shifts the outcome or experience for both the parent and the child. And also, it might sound like it takes time to do that, when in reality, it's just a matter of few seconds difference. It only feels forever as you discuss it from a distance. And then with those few seconds of mindfulness, the mother would be able to make a better choice, to gently hold the child and explain in a calmer voice and composure why she stopped the child from proceeding. And using the same metaphor, this would have been a more positive seed planted in the child's consciousness, and so it is for the parent as a learning experience. This positive outcome will then be strengthened for the child as the mother reinforces her mindful actions time and again. Now, this hopefully provides some clarifications on why it is in conscious parenting. Parenting itself is ideally more about the parents being aware of the impact their actions have on their children than it is about fixing or controlling the child under any circumstances. Children are reminding us how to be present and engage with life as it is, and not to continue with the flawed approach that we adults have grown accustomed to. This is not to suggest that the mother was wrong. It is meant for pointing out that there is a better way in our role as parents to help build and shape a more resilient and conscious future generations. All right, thank you for listening, and do give me a follow if you enjoy and find this kind of content helpful. Bye.